5 daily habits to add 10 years to your life, backed by science. You know, there's something I've been thinking about lately. Maybe you felt it too. Those mornings where your joints creak a little louder than they used to. Or afternoons where your energy seems to vanish before the clock hits 3. It's like the batteries we had in our 40s and 50s just don't hold the same charge anymore. But here's the thing. What if I told you that science says we don't have to accept that as our new normal? That there are simple, everyday habits, no magic pills, no extreme diets, that could help us feel more vibrant, more alive, and maybe even add a solid decade to our lives? Now, I know what you're thinking. Easier said than done, right? But stick with me. This isn't about running marathons or overhauling your entire life. It's about small, intentional choices that add up over time. Choices that researchers have studied for years, tracking thousands of people just like us. People who wanted to live longer, healthier lives without giving up the joys of retirement, grandkids, gardening, or lazy Sunday afternoons. So today, let's talk about 5 of those habits. We'll start with the first 2, because I want to give each one the attention it deserves. And by the end of our time together, I think you'll feel as hopeful as I do about how much control we truly have over our health as we age. Let's begin with something so obvious, we often overlook it. But it's the very foundation of everything else. Movement. Now, don't panic. I'm not talking about sweating it out at the gym or training for a triathlon. In fact, some of the most powerful forms of movement are the gentlest. Think about it. When scientists study the world's longest-lived communities, places like Okinawa, Japan, or Sardinia, Italy, they don't find people doing CrossFit. They find folks who move naturally all day long. Gardening, walking to the market, playing with grandkids, even doing household chores. The key here is consistency. A 30-minute walk in the morning? Fantastic. But what about the other 23.5 hours? Our bodies thrive on rhythm, standing up every hour to stretch, pacing while you're on the phone, or even doing seated leg lifts during your favorite TV show. It's not about intensity. It's about keeping the blood flowing, the joints lubricated, and the muscles engaged. Take my neighbor Margaret, for example. She's 78 and still grows her own tomatoes. One day, I asked her secret. She laughed and said, "Oh, I'm just too stubborn to sit still." Turns out, she's onto something. Studies show that regular, low-intensity movement can reduce inflammation, improve heart health, and even sharpen your mind. It's like giving your body a daily tune-up. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow, try adding just 10 minutes of intentional movement to your day. Maybe it's a stroll around the block after breakfast or a gentle dance to your favorite oldies record. And if you're feeling ambitious, set a timer to stand up and stretch every hour. Your future self will thank you. Now, let's move on to the second habit, something we all know is important but often gets tangled up in fads and conflicting advice. Nourishment. I'll admit the word diet makes me cringe. It's all over the internet. Eat this, not that. Superfoods to reverse aging. But let's cut through the noise. The science of longevity isn't about kale smoothies or fasting for 18 hours a day. It's about balance, color, and here's the kicker, enjoyment. Think about the Mediterranean diet, which has been studied for decades. It's not a strict regimen, it's a lifestyle. Fresh vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, fish, maybe a glass of red wine with dinner. But here's what's fascinating. Researchers found that people who followed this pattern weren't just living longer, they were happier. Why? Because food isn't just fuel. It's connection. It's the smell of herbs in your garden, the taste of a ripe peach, the joy of sharing a meal with someone you love. Now let's get practical. Start by eating the rainbow. No, not Skittles. I'm talking about filling your plate with as many colors as possible. Bright red peppers, dark leafy greens, golden turmeric in your soup. These colors come from antioxidants and phytochemicals that protect your cells from damage. And don't forget protein. It's crucial for maintaining muscle mass as we age. Eggs, beans, Greek yogurt, or a handful of nuts can work wonders. But here's a tip you might not expect. Hydrate like it's your job. As we get older, our sense of thirst dulls, and dehydration can sneak up on us, causing fatigue, dizziness, even confusion. Keep a water bottle nearby. And if plain water feels boring, Try adding a slice of lemon or cucumber. Herbal teas count too. Now, I know cooking for one or two can feel tedious sometimes. That's where simplicity shines. A can of sardines on whole grain toast. A baked sweet potato topped with cottage cheese and chives. Or my personal favorite, a kitchen sink, soup with whatever veggies are in the fridge. Nourishment doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be consistent. So there you have it, movement and nourishment. Simple. Yes. Easy. Maybe not always. But worth it? Absolutely. Because here's the truth. Aging isn't about losing vitality. It's about preserving it. And these habits, they're your tools. But we're just getting started. Next time, we'll dive into 2 more habits that are equally powerful, and maybe even a little surprising. Until then, why not take that walk or try a new vegetable at the market? Small steps, my friend. That's where the magic happens. You know, it's funny. Sometimes the things that feel the most ordinary are the ones that pack the biggest punch for our health. Take sleep, for example. Remember when we were young and treated sleep like an inconvenience? Burning the midnight oil, waking up with the sunrise, bouncing back like it was nothing. These days, though, a rough night can leave us feeling like we've been hit by a truck. But here's the good news. Science says that improving our sleep isn't just about feeling less groggy. It's a game changer for longevity. In fact, researchers at Harvard found that poor sleep habits can age your body by decades on a cellular level. So let's talk about how to reclaim those restful nights. No counting sheep required. First, let's tackle the myth that older adults need less sleep. Not true. We still need 7 to 9 hours, just like anyone else. The problem? Our sleep cycles change. We spend less time in deep sleep, and things like medications, aches, or even that evening cup of coffee can sabotage us. But small tweaks can make a world of difference. Take my friend Carl, who used to toss and turn until 2 a.m. every night. His solution? He started treating bedtime like a ritual. Around 8 p.m., he dims the lights, puts on a cozy playlist from the 70s, and sips a cup of chamomile tea. Within a week, he was nodding off by 10:30. Turns out, he told me, my body just needed a signal that it's time to wind down. Here's the science. Our bodies rely on circadian rhythms, a fancy term for our internal clock. As we age, that clock gets a little rusty. Bright screens, irregular meal times, and even too much sitting in the dark during the day can throw it off. So try this. Get sunlight first thing in the morning, even if it's just standing by a window for 5 minutes. It resets your clock, making it easier to fall asleep later. And if you're a napper, keep it short, 20 minutes max. Anything longer can steal sleep from the night. Now, let's talk about the bedroom itself. Is it a sanctuary or a storage room? Studies show that cool, dark, and quiet environments are key. Blackout curtains, a fan for white noise, and a mattress that supports your joints. These aren't luxuries. They're investments in your health. And if pain keeps you up, try a body pillow or a heated blanket. Comfort isn't negotiable, it's medicine. But here's a tip you might not hear often. Don't stress about the clock. If you wake up at 3 a.m., resist the urge to check the time. Anxiety about lost sleep can keep you awake longer. Instead, practice deep breathing or visualize a peaceful memory, like rocking a grandbaby or walking through a garden. Your body will follow your mind's lead. All right, let's shift gears to something that might surprise you, a habit that's just as vital as sleep, but often overlooked. Connection. And I don't mean Wi-Fi. I'm talking about the kind that happens over a shared meal, a phone call, or even a wave to the mail carrier. Science has a name for it, social integration. And it turns out, having strong relationships is as good for longevity as quitting smoking. Think about the Italian villages where centenarians are common. Sure, they eat well and move naturally, but they also live in tight-knit communities. Every day, there's someone to laugh with, argue with, or rely on. Loneliness, on the other hand, can be deadly. A Brigham Young University study found that chronic loneliness increases the risk of early death by 26%, a statistic on par with obesity. Now I get it. As we age, circles shrink, friends move away, spouses pass on, and adult kids get busy. But connection doesn't have to mean a packed social calendar. It's about quality, not quantity. My neighbor, Helen, lost her husband 3 years ago. For months, she barely left the house. Then she started joining a weekly knitting group at the library. At first, I just went for the distraction, she told me. But now, those women are my lifeline. We don't just knit, we laugh, we vent, we remember. The lesson here? Be the one who reaches out. Invite a friend for coffee, even if it's just on your porch. Call a sibling during your morning walk. Or try something new. Take a watercolor class, volunteer at a food pantry, or chat with strangers at the dog park. Every interaction, no matter how small, sends a signal to your body. You're not alone. And that sense of belonging? It lowers stress hormones, boosts immunity, and even sharpens your mind. But let's address the elephant in the room, technology. It's easier than ever to stay connected, but screens can't replace face-to-face warmth. So use them wisely. A video call with a grandchild? Wonderful. Scrolling through Facebook for hours? Not so much. Balance is key. So there we are. Sleep and connection. One renews your body. The other nourishes your soul. And together, they're like a daily multivitamin for longevity. But here's what's exciting. We're not done yet. There's another habit. Something deeply personal, yet universally powerful. That ties all of this together. And when we meet again, we'll explore how it can turn these daily practices into a life you'll want to live for decades to come. Until then, why not call an old friend tonight? Or tuck in a little earlier with a book instead of the TV. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And you're already moving forward. You know, there's a question I've been asking myself lately. One that might sound familiar to you too. What's it all for? I don't mean that in a heavy, existential way. I'm talking about the little moments that make life feel rich and meaningful. The morning cup of coffee shared with a loved one, the satisfaction of pulling weeds from a flower bed, or the quiet pride of passing down a family recipe. Science tells us these aren't just nice-to-haves. They're essential ingredients for longevity. In fact, researchers have discovered that the happiest, healthiest seniors aren't just checking boxes for diet or exercise. They're living with something deeper purpose. Now, purpose might sound like a lofty word, reserved for philosophers or world changers. But here's the truth. Purpose doesn't have to mean curing diseases or climbing mountains. It's about waking up with a sense of why today matters. And studies from places like Rush University Medical Center show that people with a strong sense of purpose have a 15% lower risk of death. Yes, even when accounting for other health factors. They're less likely to develop Alzheimer's, heart disease, or chronic stress. Why? Because purpose lights a fire in our brains and bodies. It keeps us curious, engaged, and hungry for tomorrow. Take my cousin Frank, for example. After retiring from teaching, he felt adrift. Days blurred into weeks, and he started skipping walks, eating frozen dinners, and watching TV for hours. Then, on a whim, he volunteered to tutor kids at the local library. Those first few Mondays, I dragged myself there, he told me. But now, those kids make me laugh, they challenge me, and I come home feeling like I've done something real. Frank's story isn't unique. Purpose, whether it's mentoring, gardening, or even organizing family photos, creates a ripple effect. It gets us moving, connects us to others, and yes, even makes us crave healthier meals. Suddenly, taking care of ourselves isn't a chore. It's fuel for the things we love. So how do you find your purpose? Start by looking backward. What made you feel alive decades ago? Maybe it was painting, fixing cars, or telling stories. You don't have to resurrect the past exactly as it was. Adapt it. If your knees won't let you coach soccer anymore, could you keep score for the neighborhood league? If you loved hosting dinners, what about a monthly potluck with friends? Or think smaller, a daily phone call to check on a friend. Baking muffins for the new family down the street. Even caring for a pet or a houseplant can anchor your days in meaning. But here's a tip, let it evolve. Purpose isn't a static thing. It's a river, shifting and changing as we do. My friend Evelyn spent her career as a nurse. In retirement, she thought she'd lost her reason. Then she started knitting hats for preemies at the hospital. It's not the same as holding a stethoscope. she said, but every stitch feels like a prayer. And don't underestimate the power of curiosity. Ever wanted to learn Spanish? Write poetry? Grow bonsai trees? Now's the time. Lifelong learning isn't just for sharpening your mind, though it does that too. It's about proving to yourself that growth doesn't retire when you do. Sign up for a community college class, watch YouTube tutorials, or join a book club. Every new skill, no matter how small, whispers to your soul, "You're still here. You're still becoming." Now, let's tie this all together. Think back to the habits we've talked about. Moving your body, nourishing it with color, prioritizing sleep, fostering connection, and now, cultivating purpose. These aren't isolated tasks. They're threads in the same tapestry. When you have a reason to wake up excited, you'll want to move, to eat well, to rest deeply. And when your body feels strong, you'll have the energy to chase what lights you up. It's a cycle, a dance, a conversation between your body, heart, and mind. So here's my challenge for you this week. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that would make tomorrow feel worth waking up for? Maybe it's planting herbs in a windowsill pot. Maybe it's telling your grandkids a story about your first job. Or maybe it's simply sitting outside to watch the birds, reminding yourself that the world is still full of wonder. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you build. Brick by brick, day by day. And each brick is a choice to show up, not just for others, but for yourself. Next time, we'll wrap this all up with a bow, not by adding more to your plate, but by showing you how these habits weave together into a life that's not just longer, but fuller, richer, and truer to who you are. Until then, why not dust off that old hobby or reach out to someone who could use a smile? You never know. It might just be the thread that pulls everything into place. You know, there's a story my grandmother used to tell me about her garden. She'd say, "A thriving garden isn't just about planting seeds. It's about tending to them, day after day, even when you can't see the growth happening underground." She'd water, weed, and whisper encouragement to those plants like they were old friends. And every summer, without fail, that garden would burst into color. Tomatoes plump and red, sunflowers taller than me, herbs that smelled like heaven. Funny thing is, our bodies and minds aren't so different from that garden. The habits we've talked about these past few weeks, moving gently, eating with joy, sleeping deeply, connecting warmly, and nurturing purpose, aren't just items on a checklist. They're the daily tending, the small acts of care that help us bloom, year after year. And today, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. You are the gardener here. Every choice you make, no matter how tiny, is a seed planted for the life you want to live. Let's take a stroll through this garden together, shall we? Think back to when we started, those first steps of adding movement into your day. Not as a punishment, but as a celebration of what your body can still do. Maybe you've started pacing the living room during phone calls, or finally tried that Tai Chi video your daughter sent. However it looks, you're showing up, and that's what matters. Then there's nourishment, the art of feeding yourself like someone you love. Maybe you've rediscovered the pleasure of a ripe strawberry or swapped out that sad, limp toast for a veggie omelet that makes your taste buds sing. Food isn't just medicine, it's a love letter to your future self. And sleep? Oh, what a gift it is to finally respect those restful hours. Maybe you've banished the TV from the bedroom or started winding down with a dog-eared novel instead of the news. Those quiet moments before bed aren't just downtime. They're sacred, a chance to let your body repair and your mind reset. Then there's connection, the antidote to loneliness. Whether it's a weekly call with your sister or finally joining that birdwatching club at the park, you've reminded yourself that life is sweeter when shared. And purpose, that quiet flame that keeps you curious, whether you're teaching your grandson how to whittle or writing letters to old friends. It's the why that gets you out of bed, even on mornings when the creaks and aches try to convince you otherwise. Here's the beautiful part. These habits don't exist in isolation. They're threads in the same tapestry. When you move your body, you sleep better. When you sleep better, you have the energy to connect. When you connect, you find purpose. And when you live with purpose, you want to nourish yourself well. It's a cycle, a dance, One that doesn't demand perfection, just presence. Now, I won't pretend there won't be days when the garden feels overgrown. Days when frozen pizza wins over a home-cooked meal, or when the couch seems more appealing than a walk. That's okay. This isn't about being flawless. It's about showing up again tomorrow. As my grandmother would say, even the best gardens have weeds. You just keep pulling them, one at a time. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one habit, just one, that feels doable this week. Maybe it's drinking an extra glass of water each morning, or calling a friend you've been missing. Maybe it's setting a bedtime alarm or planting basil in a pot by the kitchen window. Start small. Let that one change root itself into your routine. Then, when you're ready, add another. Trust the process. Science might have given us the roadmap, but you're the one taking the wheel. Before we go, I want to hear from you. What habit has made the biggest difference in your life? Or maybe you've discovered a tip of your own along the way. Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and your words might be the nudge someone else needs to start their own journey. And if this series has inspired you, why not share it with a friend? Forward the link, text them, or even chat about it over tea. After all, connection is contagious, and so is hope. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed our time together, and subscribe to the channel for more stories to help you thrive at any age. As we say goodbye for now, I'll leave you with this. Growing older isn't about slowing down. It's about leaning in. Leaning into joy, into curiosity, into the simple, stubborn act of believing that your best years aren't behind you. They're right here, waiting to be lived. So here's to you, friend, to your strength, your resilience, and the beautiful, messy, miraculous journey of tending your own garden. Keep planting those seeds. I'll be right here, cheering you on. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.